course, those three Israeli hostages, Romy Gonen, Duran Steinbrecher, and Emily Demari, they are set to be released. We saw a helicopter land just moments ago. For more on the hostage for prisoner swap happening right now, here with us is retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton. General, always great to see you. Thank you for joining us for this breaking news. Your reaction to this exchange happening with the diplomacy being so sluggish in the final hours of this?
Well, good morning, Hannah. It's certainly potentially here a jubilant but poignant time for certainly the hostages and the families, but the Israeli people. But this is a lots of details here. And at any one moment, as we've seen, regarding some of those details that could really not derail the ceasefire per se, but to put it on pause. And so we're going to see starts and stops along the way, certainly for the next 42 days. It will seem excruciating, certainly for the Israeli hostage families, but nonetheless, I would anticipate that to be ensuing at this point. Let me also add, and when we get the first glimpse potentially of these three Israeli hostages to be released, they've been in captivity for 471 days, Hannah. If you recall, back in November of 2023, there were 100 Israeli hostages released. They had been in captivity for about 50 days. They were rather weak and frail, but this is a totally different conundrum conditionally for these hostages themselves. And so it's as if the Israeli government has been working weeks to prepare for this very moment and this handover, and then get them the immediate medical attention they need, and then certainly reunited with their families. And so this is like I said, it's a jubilant, poignant moment, but it's also a very difficult moment. Finally, again, for the next 42 days, I would have our viewers understand and appreciate the fact that this is you're going to have stops and starts all in many ways. It'll seem like it'll be micro details, but it's really to hold Hamas, I believe, to what it said it was going to do for the ceasefire arrangement.
I do want to ask you about the future of Gaza. Now that phase one has started, we know the aid trucks, we've seen video of them lined up from Egypt, from Rafah, going into Gaza. But many of these millions of displaced Palestinians are coming back to nothing. There's no homes, there's no schools, there's no places of worship, there's no food. And hopefully the aid coming in will get to the people that need it most. But what is the future of Gaza, sir?
Future of Gaza it's an extraordinary situation. We have nearly 2 million what I would call non-militant Palestinian citizens who've been caught in the crossfires here, the Gazan citizens themselves. They've been withheld of certainly food and even shelter to some degree. And now you're going to see the migration of them where they were displaced back to their homes. They're now in southern Gaza, they'll move back into northern Gaza themselves. Three issues here. First, it's the hostages themselves and how they're released and so forth. And it also includes the Palestinian prisoners. Second aspect of this is the territorial aspect of it. And that's where you've got Israeli forces having been in place for several months will now have to begin to remove themselves per the ceasefire agreement, and then potentially if there's a peace deal that's actually going to be struck. And so you'll see lots of movements of not only Gazan citizens, but also Israeli forces. And the third piece of this are those 600 trucks reportedly that are being readied to move into Gaza so we can disperse the humanitarian aid that's been so needed by these Gazan citizens. However, the challenge there is Hamas still controls the vast majority of the Gazan territory, and they actually oversee somewhat of the governance of Gaza. And so Hamas, once those trucks are allowed to enter, will be in control of those humanitarian aid vehicles, and then likely will take it for themselves, their needs. And then, as I mentioned, you and I talked about this yesterday, probably take some of the fuel from those trucks, and then they'll likely get it back, probably sell it back to the Palestinians inside of Gaza. Very complicated deal here, but the future of Gaza rests first with this first 42-day ceasefire. This is not a peace agreement, by the way. The ceasefire is just that, a ceasefire to get 33 of the Israeli hostages back. Hopefully most of those 33 are alive, but then you're going to have per day 90 Palestinian soldiers, or Palestinian Hamas terrorists released, and probably a vast majority of them will get back into the fight. So the future of Gaza it's painstakingly going to be slow and detailed and complicated. At the end, hopefully we'll end up with a long-term peace agreement that Israel can sign. That's to be seen.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.